Welcome back to the Daily Grind with Jen. I'm your host, Jen Hernandez, coming to you today from Studio 73 Productions with, at this point, is my very necessary cup of coffee. On today's show, I'm going to chat with you guys a little bit about how the homeschool telework dynamic is going, as well as give you an update with Team Hernandez now that we are coming up on the final stretch, hopefully, of the quarantine here in the state of Washington. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how my Instant Pot obsession has actually been helping me with meal planning, and share with you guys about how my family is having to deal with grief right now during a pandemic and what it looks like for us. I do think it is somewhat ironic that as the quarantine now, the end is in sight, hopefully, we're finally starting to get into a groove here with homeschooling. Now, granted, in order to get to this place, I am now running on essentially caffeine and about an average of 4 to 5 hours of broken sleep a night. But we are finally to a point where David has Zoom sessions with his class once a week. He has a Zoom session 3 times a week with a paraeducator. And he had his first one today. It was a group Zoom session with his speech therapist and another boy at his school that's also receiving speech services. So we're finally starting to see some services wrap around for David. We're finally starting to get, we have a printer now that's working. Hallelujah for that, because this week has been so much easier trying to get Elena's assignments put together as well. And so she's now on track in a bit more straightforward fashion with her class. David is starting to get more on track with his services and his schooling as well. And it looks like we only have, hopefully we're almost a week out from this pandemic. Not the pandemic being over, but the quarantine portion of it being lifted. So then that had got me thinking about, well, what happens when I have to go back to work? So I already, before this started, was working from home 3 days a week. However, those were 3 days a week where my kids were in school and I had the whole house essentially to myself because Mike was sleeping during most of those hours. And so I got a whole heck of a lot of work done. And I frequently would get more work done at home than I would in the office. Of course, now I cannot necessarily say the same because I'm having to homeschool the kids during the day while I'm also trying to get all my hours in for work. So the added stress of now having to go back into the office when I have the kids and homeschooling, I actually was feeling quite a bit of anxiety with that. I did reach out to my supervisors at work, and it sounds like for my work, we are not all going to be going back when the quarantine order lifts. In fact, we're all staying at home. Our orders from work are not changing. We're kind of in a wait and see how everything goes mode right now. So in terms of my work life, the fact that the quarantine is soon to be lifted really doesn't have much impact of any. It has zero impact on school because the governor has already canceled school for the entire school year. So I am hopeful, though, that means, however, that some services or businesses will start opening in the community that, the kids and I can safely go to so we don't feel so tied to the home. The big thing that I'm hoping opens are the campgrounds, because our family loves to go camping, and it was a pretty big disappointment when we realized the campgrounds were closed. And I have not seen them on the list of things to open yet because the governor's doing a slow rollout. It sounds like hunting, fishing, some state parks are going to be opening. I'm waiting for the private campgrounds. I am waiting for the private campgrounds to open so that we can start planning our camping trips for the summer. I'm very much looking forward to that. On the note of homeschooling, I do have a bit of a bone to pick with the school district, or rather specifically, our school. I feel that while we are in a groove now and we're doing pretty good, it is still very time intensive for me. Both my children are primary grades. David requires, like I said before, he is on an IEP for every academic subject, so he requires a lot of individual instruction. Though he is 9 and he is in the 3rd grade, the majority of his academics are somewhere in the 1st grade range on a lot of his materials. And so My kids require a significant amount of one-on-one with me in order to have them process the assignments, understand it, get it, answer all their questions. And in that sense, I really am the teacher in a lot of ways. So the fact that the school has now sent out an email requiring the teachers to give attendance to all of the kids is just incredibly frustrating to me, because they have this system that, for the week before, did the child do all of the assignments and send them all in? Were they also engaged, virtually in some fashion? Or did they just log on to an app and maybe do a little bit of work that you can see that they did on the app? Or did you hear nothing from them at all, to which they are considered absent? So if you do everything and are highly engaging in everything, and the teacher can see that your kid has done this all, your kid's marked as present. If maybe you turned in some work to the teacher and then went on some of the apps and the teacher saw some work being done on some of the apps, then that is considered tardy. If the teacher basically gets radio silence from your household, your child is considered absent. So the real frustration I had with this was twofold. One, I cannot believe that the school has the unmitigated gall to have the teachers take attendance when they are not actually teaching our kids right now. Now, I will say, I do have my girlfriend Karen, who was on the show a couple weeks ago. Her girls are in a different school district from me. Her girls were her younger daughter was issued a laptop, and her younger daughter logs on to some sort of like Google Classroom thing, and the teacher is actually giving them instruction, and it's that, okay, fine. I get that. I see that. But the school that my children attend to have not done that. They don't have the resources for that. And okay, fine. So they're doing the best they can with what they have, but requiring yet the parents to now ensure that not only is their kid doing all the homeschool that they sent to them, because my school did not send out iPads initially for the kids to do schoolwork. No, they sent home a bunch of paper copied packets for us to do. Packets with little to no instruction on some of them. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, I have no idea what this is. So we did not do the packets because they made no sense whatsoever. Mommy came up with her own plan, and they still were getting reading, language arts, and math as well. So the fact that the school now wants to have the teachers take attendance when at least my children's teachers are not doing any actual teaching, I personally find offensive. The other thing that actually got me even more upset about this is that this really negatively impacts low-income students. And we are in a district that has a high number of students that are on free and reduced lunch. So if you are in a household where internet is not in your budget, where laptops are not in your budget, where you did not have an opportunity to go to the school to pick up your child's iPad because why does it matter? You don't have internet access anyways. Or you were working during those time periods because the only times that they were offered were during typical workday hours. And it was just for part of a morning and part of an afternoon. Somewhat unrealistic depending on your family circumstance if someone could actually get there to pick up potentially an iPad that could be a resource for your family. So in our household, we did need to go pick up the laptops. I did have to take time off of work in order to do that. I'm very lucky. I have the ability to take time off work. I earn paid time off, so I can put in a leave slip for it. It's not like I'm going to be out that money because of it. I'm still going to get compensated provided I have the leave hours to put in for. But there are other people that are not in that situation. And now that the school is trying to take attendance based on something that has ultimately is tied to potentially a family's financial situation was just really frustrating to me. The other part with it that was equally frustrating is for parents of special needs students, which I am one of those. My child has some special needs. He is on an IEP for everything. He does not receive any general instruction in the classroom. So when the kids are doing math, my child is in a resource room doing a different level of math, a significantly lower level of math. When the kids in his classroom are doing reading, writing, and English, my child is in a resource room, getting appropriate level reading, writing, and English for where he is in a small group. It is nowhere near, however, the grade level work that is being done in the classroom. So when I see an email that comes out that says, my child's attendance is going to be based on whether or not the teacher can see that he has gone in and done the classroom work, personally, I'm offended by that, because there is no way that my child, even with my awesome instruction, is going to be able to successfully go in and do the grade work assignments because his teacher has not taught him anything. In fact, when we went to the parent-teacher conference in the fall, it was not entirely his teacher's fault, but it was I was a little turned off because her response was, well, I don't really have anything to tell you about David scholastically because he hasn't done any work in the classroom. You should definitely stop by the resource room to see how he's doing. And of course, we did that. But just that lack of communication between the resource room and the teacher, where she either didn't have the time or didn't think to check in with them to see how is David doing to tell us, or alternatively for the resource room to check in with her and make sure she knew that, hey, here's David's strengths, here's David's weaknesses. When his mom comes in for the parent-teacher conference, make sure mom and dad know this stuff. It has been a continuing battle with the school in this regard with David. And so it was just so irritating to me. And I sent an email to David's teacher. I just said, I assume, how is this going to affect David? I assume you're not expecting him to go in and do the work that you're assigning on this Canvas app. I mean, we never even logged into the Canvas app because I know he's not doing that reading. He's not doing that math. We're not going to attempt it. We have our packets at home. I guess I'm going to have to suck it up and learn how to do the packets, which we have been doing. I will tell you, I did not initially do them, but we have been trying to figure them out together and going through. It did help when he started getting the Zoom sessions because I could see the instructor go through one of the problem sets and I realized, oh, that's what she wants him to do. Would have been helpful if y'all would have included some instructions for it. The other thing that kind of got me going with this is that I have been inundated with now email blasts from some of the specialist instructors. So like health and art and library keep saying, hey, have your kids sign on and do this or print out this worksheet and fill it out. And I'm looking at it and it's not stuff that it looks like busy work. And we don't have time for busy work because mommy's still trying to get her real job done as well. So I kind of looked at all that because I hit my limit when I started getting all of the specialist email blasts with it didn't really look to be anything particularly useful, which I know is probably harsh, but I mean, let's be honest. We are trying to be as focused as we can because there is only so much energy that we have to expend right now. And I'm just trying not to be wasteful with what energy I have left in me. So I had decided I'm not going to worry about completing all of the specialist work. I have chalked that up to optional in my mind. And I do, however, think that art is incredibly valuable. And I also think that health and social studies and anything that deals with like the social, emotional intelligence of a child is actually really important as well. So I actually had seen a girlfriend of mine had an article that she had posted up on her Facebook page about growth mindset for kids. And I had thought it looked interesting. I went in, read the article, and I actually really liked a lot of the stuff that was in there. They even had a bunch of different exercises and projects you could do with your kids. So for this week, we took one of the projects that were on the growth mindset website that my girlfriend had posted on Facebook, and we're using it as our art and our health project. So I'm really excited for it. And the kids so far have enjoyed doing the project. It is about, I want to say 5 or 6 sheets of paper. Each sheet has different phrases all across it, and they all have to do with certain areas. So for example, there's, and I don't remember the exact title of it, but for example, there'd be like physical activity at the top. And then there are a whole list of physical attributes like runs fast, can ride a bike, athletic, plays sports, all these different things. There's another sheet that has a whole bunch of different phrases on it. And that sheet, for example, might be listed, academics and, studies, perseveres, works hard, all things that might fall under academics. And then there's one that kind of falls under like social emotional, kind to others, listens well, follows directions, encourages, all these different things. And so each page has kind of like a different subject area. And the child is to pick a color that they want for each page. You color the entire page, that color, whatever color you want. Then what they do is all those phrases, they're horizontal across the page. And so you cut them. And when you cut them, they become these kind of nice strips. Then you take your strips with your phrases and the things that you believe you exemplify, that you can do, or that you're already doing rather. You put those and you turn it into a ring. And so you get this huge chain at the end, and it's comprised of all of your strengths, and it's very colorful, so you see everything there. And so what we're doing is, we're in the process of doing this, and then we're taking it one step further, and the strips that are left behind, that's where our growth mindset is going to start coming in. And those are things, it's not that we don't do or that we can't do. Those are opportunities. Those are going to be opportunities that we're going to hopefully see if we can sneak them in our week here and there and try and get our strength chains, because that's what it's called, a strength chain, our strength chains to grow over the course of this time period while we're at home. So I guess between now until hopefully they go back to school in September. So that is what we are doing for Health and Art. And I am excited about that project. If we ever finish them, I'll take a picture and put it up on the Facebook page for you guys. In other news for Team Hernandez, last weekend, we got another letter from Jordan, which was really exciting. So for those of you who haven't heard any of the other episodes and don't know, Jordan Ray is my stepson. He is in Georgia at Fort Benning for basic training. He's in the Army. He has been there since the end of February. And everyone was really excited to hear from him in his latest letter. It seems like he's doing well and he seems to be enjoying himself, except for the bugs. So in every letter that he addresses to the kids, he mentions about, either a big bug or a big spider, and the kids get an absolute kick out of it because they have me go and look up pictures of whatever it is that he's talking about. And they know that I will do this for them because Jordan says in the letter, have mommy go look it up for you. So, and the kids like it because they think it's funny because usually the stuff that he has them look up is disgusting. I think he's doing it just to get a rise out of me. But the kids anyways, they get a kick out of that. And this last letter he sent, he also did the same thing that he did last time, which he did an outline of his handprint and put, a high five. And so now we have both high fives are framed, and one is in David's room and the other is in Elena's, so that whenever they want, they can give their brother a high five, which has been fun for them, and they like that. It's a way to kind of incorporate Jordan into the household, even though he's pretty far away. But the other thing that's going on with Jordan is that he is actually at the last week of his formal instruction for basic training. So he is coming down the home stretch at this point. Next week, he is embarking on what they call the Forge. My understanding of the Forge is it is essentially a 96-hour live simulation final, for lack of a better descriptive word. It's supposed to be the culminating obstacle or event for them to graduate this phase of basic training. And at the end of it, when they complete everything, they have what's called a turning green ceremony, which will be next Saturday, May 8th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific Time. Typically, that is attached to the family weekend. And so normally we would have been allowed to fly out there, see him go through this ceremony and get to spend a little bit of time with him on that weekend. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, they're not canceling the ceremony so much as they are canceling any visitors being allowed on base. So you are still able to watch your soldier, have their turning green ceremony. And how the Army is doing it is they are doing it all via Facebook Live on the company's Facebook page. So if you are interested in watching Jordan Ray's turning green ceremony, shoot me an email at TheDailyGrindWithJen@gmail.com. Or you can message me on the show's Facebook page, The Daily Grind with Jen, and I'll figure out how to get the Facebook link to you so that you can watch his ceremony. He still will need to go through some additional training in order to complete everything, but he will officially be a U.S. soldier once he completes the forge. So that's something that we are all very excited for Jordan, and we're holding good thoughts for him as he goes through this process. Now, while my kids may not have been busier during this pandemic, I certainly am. I feel like this is the busiest I have ever been. And for anyone who knows me, that's saying a lot. I have less free time now than I ever have. And I truly mean this, even when in law school. Like this is on a whole new level of what we got going on here right now in this household in terms of free time. So with that in mind, I have had to really try and figure out how to be the most effective with my time. And because I still need a little bit of downtime for me. I am not willing to completely sacrifice that downtime, that quiet time, for my own mental health. So I've had to try and cut corners where I can. And so anybody who has talked with me over the last 9 months and the conversation has turned or veered towards food prep, I love my Instant Pot. Love my Instant Pot. I love my Instant Pot so much that I actually went and got the Ace, which is the Instant Pot's blender. I could spend an entire show talking to you guys about how much I love my Instant Pot, how much I love my Instant Pot blender, all the different things that I make in them, and how it has radically changed my life. In fact, about 3 to 4 months ago, I bought a magnetic meal planner for our fridge to help me get my meal planning organized. And because I just like my least favorite question in the world is what's for dinner. Like I hear that, it's like fingernails on the chalkboard, and I'm instantly cranky. I do not like that question because I am the only person in this household who ever gets asked that question. And that also drives me nuts. So I digress. What I did in order to avoid hearing the what's for dinner question, I, about 3 to 4 months ago, bought this magnetic meal planner for the fridge. I got it on Amazon, and on usually Sundays, sometimes Saturday nights, I go through, wipe it down, and I plan out the entire meal. So it used to be I'd go through on a Saturday, wipe it all out, plan the meal for all the week, put in a Walmart grocery pickup order Saturday night, and I'd pick up all my groceries sometime on Sunday, and I'd be set for the week. I've had to modify a little bit because there have been pretty much every time I make a grocery pickup order these days, when I go to pick up my order, something that I had ordered is out of stock, and there's no replacement that they are providing at that point. And so I have had to several times now, I've had to alter my meal plan because I didn't have what I needed to make the meal. And a lot of times it's like I'm missing the main course. Like for a while there, I couldn't get hamburger meat anywhere. And then I couldn't find steaks once or twice. So we've had to be a little creative, and we have not quite as stuck to the meal plan as we previously were before the pandemic. But I'm starting to see a lot of the stuff that I typically would need to order is starting to come back in stock. So we are going to now be reutilizing our meal planning, and I am going to be incorporating home ec for the kids. So what we started doing probably about 2 weeks ago is that when I would do the meal plan, I would let each kid pick one meal. And I've decided it is time to step up my game. So now each kid is going to pick a meal. Then they are going to have to figure out all the ingredients, with my assistance, that they are going to need for the meal that they pick. We will write them down because I have a little space on the magnetic meal planner to put down ingredients. So that will include, they need to go and check and see, well, if the meal requires garlic, do we have garlic? If we don't, we have to put it on the list. If we do, then we don't have to put it on the list. So they're going to have to go through, figure out, 1, what do we want? 2, what do we need in order to cook what we want? And do we have it? What do we have to order? And put the order in. The next level that we will then do, which we probably won't institute this next level for probably another week or 2. I want them to kind of get used to figuring out the ingredients portion first. The third step that we'll do is we will actually have whichever child picked their meal, they are going to help mommy prepare it. So that way they can learn how to cook a little bit and also learn how to use some of the appliances, because the majority of the cooking we do in this household, we use the Instant Pot and we use the Traeger. That's about it. Unless we're doing a lunch. And if it's lunch, then we use the Instant Pot blender because Mike and I like soup, and that's what we do our soups in. So I'm actually really excited about this. In order to assist with my new brilliant home ec idea, I bought myself a prize because I love prizes. And I got a new cookbook. I got it off Amazon. It is all recipes from Jeff from Pressure Luck. He has a YouTube video. He also has a bunch of his recipes on Pinterest too. But my kids and I, we love Jeff from Pressure Luck. His YouTube videos are relatively entertaining. They all involve the Instant Pot. And his recipes, well, I will admit, are not not the healthiest. A lot of them involve just wonderful. They're so flavorful though, but they are made a little bit probably more on the fattening side. Like he uses butter and a lot of stuff, and butter is a good item though. But I'm excited about my cookbook. I'm going to let the kids go through and pick out a couple recipes that they want to try from Jeff's from Pressure Luck's cookbook. And I think that they'll actually be excited to do that because they do know who Jeff is. They do like him. They do like the meals. And in fact, we before had gone through and tried a couple different meals, but from various different YouTube cooking videos. And without fail, every single time, Jeff's from Pressure Luck recipe always wins. So yeah, we love Jeff from Pressure Luck. In fact, if I can figure out how to get the link for his cookbook on my Facebook page, I'll put it there. So if you too are an Instant Pot lover, you can check him out as well. I do want to shift gears here just a little bit and share with you guys how I am attempting to remain balanced still during quarantine, and to share with you a little bit about how our family is attempting to hurdle some grief that has come up during the pandemic here. So in terms of what I am doing to keep myself balanced, and I say balanced because I feel torn in so many different directions. And so being able to remain calm and even keeled and keeping perspective and a clean head is vital for me in order to remain helpful for my family and in order to complete the tasks that I believe I need to for my family. And so what I'm going to be doing starting next week, I think it starts next week, is my church, Sound Life Church, is going to be doing the Jennifer Rothschild Missing Pieces Bible study I had mentioned to you guys last week. So I've decided, since my church is actually going to be doing a group Bible study with Jennifer Rothschild, I'm not going to do the one that Jennifer Rothschild has on her Facebook Bible Bistro page. I really do think it is key to engage in healthy relationships and connect with others. And if I can connect with others that are in my community, that when I get to be released from house arrest, that I can go see and have a cup of coffee with at some point in time. So I'm very excited that my church is doing this. And initially it looked like they were just going to be doing it on Tuesday afternoons. And I was really kind of bummed because I work Tuesday afternoon. And I'm already taking off time in the middle of the day and having to extend my workday in order to do homeschooling with my kids. I just could not do another big chunk in the middle of an afternoon and push back homeschooling that much further, and then my work hours that much further as well, particularly on a Tuesday, which is one of Mike's days off. So I was very happy that my church actually then I saw they had added a Tuesday evening Bible study group as well. So as I understand it, the way it's going to work is all of us that have signed up are going to be getting the link to watch the Jennifer Rothschild video at any point in time that works for us during the week. And then we're going to be logging in, and I'm not too sure if it's going to be Zoom or what format it's going to be, but we're going to be logging in to basically our virtual Bible study where we'll be able to discuss the videos and have what we normally would be at church as part of a table, we're going to be able to do from the comfort of our own homes and the safety of our own homes. But we're still going to be able to have that community and have that opportunity to dialogue with one another and do this Bible study. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm thinking it will be something good for me to keep me balanced. It will keep me on schedule because I'll know, hey, 7:30 Tuesday evenings, this is mommy's time. And I think that that's good. It's as much as I do a lot. I bend over backwards a lot for my kids and for my husband. But it is important that my kids also see that mommy maintains a relationship with other Christian women as well. That time of us spending together, that time of us learning about God together, that's valuable because I want my kids to find that valuable in their own lives as well. So I do think it's important to model it. So I am looking forward to this Bible study. The other thing I wanted to share with you guys is that, so this last Sunday, April 24th, marked the 4-year anniversary of my grandfather's passing. And I spent a lot of time leading up to it thinking about him, and it made me realize that 4 years later, I'm still grieving. And that's not a bad thing, you know, thinking about his life, missing him. It's interesting. I don't really think too much about the wishes or the regrets, and I did in the beginning. I don't focus on that anymore. I think more about just kind of what I know, right? So I know my grandfather loved me. I can say that with confidence now. And I know he was proud of me. He may not have been part of my daily life, but he enjoyed hearing about my life. And he loved to hear about David and Elena. He loved to see them, and he would ask about them because he genuinely wanted to know, because he cared. What initially helped start me to go through the grieving process was putting together a slideshow for my grandfather's funeral. Pretty sure I took the entire day off work, and all I did was scan photos, and I spent a lot of time listening to music that I know he liked or I thought would be, just right for the situation. And then Mike spent hours putting together this entire memorial video for me, making sure that everything faded in and blended into the next thing, that the music overplayed perfectly, that, when a certain song, I wanted to go with a certain photo. I mean, he spent a lot of time on this. And I sat upstairs here in the studio with him while he was doing it. And I would just, kind of share some stories about my grandfather. And that really did help me start to grieve. And I share all of this with you because earlier this week, my husband got an early morning text from his mother, who is in Texas, letting him know that his grandmother, who was also in Texas, had passed away. Mike knew that she was in the hospital. She had pneumonia. She was in a coma. It was not unexpected news to hear, but it was still difficult news to hear. Now, normally this would include trying to figure out, is he going to go to Texas? Are we going to go to Texas? What are we going to do with the kids? Or do we need to do anything? Because maybe I'm going to stay. Maybe it's just going to be him that's going to go. All surrounding a service. All surrounding an event to say goodbye. Well, and actually, quite frankly, even before that, the call that she was in a coma typically would have spurned that conversation. Do you go now? Do you wait? And I don't know what the answer would have been. But with COVID-19, there really wasn't a question to ask because we knew, he was not going to be allowed to see her in a hospital because you were not allowed to have visitors right now. So we knew that was unnecessary and not going to happen. And right now there is no service plan because can't really have one. And I don't know if the family in Texas there, if they are ultimately going to do a memorial service at some point or not. But this really kind of drove home to me the challenge of letting go, of grieving during this pandemic, because families are not able to have that ceremonial conclusion that so often our culture anyhow has had. And unfortunately, our family is not the only one that's currently in this situation where there's no memorial service to focus on, no funeral to plan for closure or to attend for closure. And I wasn't too sure what to do for my husband, how to support him during this. It's so I asked him, how are you doing? How are you feeling? We talked for a little while. We spent some time discussing it. And I asked him, what do you want to do? How do you want to handle this? And he decided, for now, that day, he just wanted to spend some time with the family. And his response was, I think my grandmother would have liked that. So that's what we did. Nothing special, nothing fancy. I just took some time off work for the day so that we could all be at home together. I still went through and did the homeschool stuff with the kids, just to have an activity for something to do. And I want to keep the kids in the practice of doing, like I said, what homeschool we do have. But it was nice, just spending time together. We didn't really talk about his grandmother anymore. He had an opportunity to talk with his mom a bit that day, and with one of his sisters, he talked with her a couple times about it. And so I'm not too sure what this whole process will look like for his family as we go through. But it did get me thinking that this was an additional struggle that people are facing right now that I had not really too terribly much considered. It had crossed my mind in passing, but the impact of it, it's not necessarily felt all that great until you yourself are going through it. And I did kind of go through and look through my Bible for a verse that kind of tried to encapsulate, how our family is feeling right now. And I don't know if this one is entirely fits perfectly, but I do think it is fitting. And it's from John 16:22. It says, "So with you, now is your time of grief, but I will see you again and you will rejoice and no one will take away your joy." And what I really like about this verse is that it did basically give permission to grieve, to be in a time of grief and grieving. And because it's a time of, that means at some point it expires. And I do think that grief is a process. And I don't know if I think it's necessarily something that 100% goes away, but I do think it, in my own experience anyhow, I have seen it lessen because I now can actually talk about my grandfather's passing. And when he initially passed, I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't mention it to anyone. I couldn't talk about it. People at work knew that it had happened just because I was out of the office for a couple days, but it was not something that I publicly put out there on Facebook. I've actually never publicly put that out there on Facebook. This is the most public I have ever been with my grandfather's passing, because it was too painful to talk about. And I can now talk about that. So it's not that my time for grief is necessarily completely over. I think that there is still some there, but I have better perspective with it. I have a better handle on it. And I now can talk about my grandfather and remember him and not feel sad. I do have some joy there when I think about him. And I do hope that that is the case with Mike and his family as he goes through this. I know it will be particularly difficult for his mom because my mother-in-law did not get the opportunity to go and say goodbye to her mother because of the circumstances of the pandemic. And her ability to say goodbye is continuing to be hindered by not being able to have a service to have that full closure. So she's someone who I'm thinking of these days and praying for, along with the rest of their entire family. And so that's pretty much all I have for you today, guys. I do want to thank you for joining me and spending a little bit of time with me here at the Daily Grind with Jen. So if you like the show, hit the subscribe button, comment. You can support us on Patreon, like our Facebook page, The Daily Grind with Jen. You can find me on Twitter at DailyGrindJen. You also can email me at TheDailyGrindWithJen@gmail.com. And you can email me about stuff you hear on the show, ideas for the show, if you want to have coffee with me, or these days it might have to be virtually, like over Zoom or something, but we can still figure it out. If you have ideas for the show, also if you have a prayer request, feel free to email that as well. I also just want to give a special thank you to Studio 73 Productions and my producer, Mike Hernandez, for all of their time and effort on the podcast. My hope for next week's episode is to have a guest from across the pond. So I will leave you with that little nugget, and I hope to see you all next week, my friends. Bye.